Anarchy on the streets of Bangladesh. Here on the right stand, we've been tracking Bangladesh very closely in the recent past and have been getting you up to speed about the unrest that's unfolded in Bangladesh, and it's been building up. The entire quota storm seems to be just perhaps the final nail or final, blow or whistle that just set off this entire pressure cooker-like situation that was building, and it just come undone on the streets. It's been about 3 or 4 years that there has been a certain level of resentment on ground against Sheikh Hasina for multiple reasons, but for democracy to be held at ransom, and despite the elections in the recent past where the Awami League stormed the elections in Bangladesh, it's just shocking how it's come undone. Protests that began in July turned far more violent, virulent over the days, and then this Monday morning, the 76-year-old Sheikh Hasina, who'd been in power in Bangladesh, elected by the people for more than 15 years, since 2008 she's been in power, ultimately forced to step down. The Bangladesh Army Chief General Waqar-uz-Zaman, who announced the resignation of Sheikh Hasina, has said that the army was in the process of forming an interim government in the country. The exit of Sheikh Hasina, one of Bharat's closest allies, is not good news for us. The main opposition party, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, headed by Khaleda Zia, is seen as closer to Pakistan, and the Bangladesh under the BNP might be far more susceptible not just to Chinese influence, but a free run for radicals and Islamists, who have also in the shadows been backing a lot of this unrest and anarchy that's been seen. People have carted away even birds and bowls from the Prime Minister's residence, official residence, as they have stormed into that area. And look what they are doing inside the Bangladesh Parliament. This is the Bangladesh Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, these visuals that you're seeing. And this is what's happening inside the Parliament. Now, we've been getting you exclusive visuals of the chaos that engulfed Bangladesh from early morning. These visuals that you're seeing on your screens are the first exclusive visuals shared by us this morning by our security affairs expert Manoj Kumar Gupta. Visuals showing how anti-quota protests escalated in Noakhali and Hindus were being targeted in these protests. Now, during these protests, the Hindu Awami League leader Haradan Roy and his nephew were actually lynched. Scenes of absolute chaos after Sheikh Hasina's exit. Hundreds and thousands of protesters defying curfew, marching on the capital street, later storming into the Prime Minister's palace, Gana Bhavan, and also visuals showing crowds running into the Premier's official residence in Dhaka, waving to the camera as they celebrated. This is just a reminder of how it unfolded in Sri Lanka. Look at them. They're carting off things. Frames, bowls, sofas, anything and everything that they can take away, they are doing that. In fact, some were seen taking away birds also. Some telling pictures, scene of complete anarchy, a mob vandalizing the Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's father, the former Bangladesh President Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's statue in Dhaka. Is the father of the nation. He's the man principally credited with Bangladesh's liberation. Bangladesh's Army Chief Waqar-uz-Zaman said that an interim government will soon be formed after the Prime Minister resigned and left the capital in the face of overwhelming protests. We will form an interim government soon, is what he said, and most likely it's going to be an all-party combined. But worries are there that there could be, entities inimical to Bharat, more friendlier with the enemy, that is Pakistan, more friendlier with entities like China, who could come in. More importantly, far more radical far-right Islamists who could be in power very soon. Now, Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina resigned, left the country amid massive anti-government protests. Her departure coming after weeks of anti-government violence that left more than 300 people dead. Unofficial numbers are above 1,500. More unruly scenes coming in from Dhaka as protesters seen taking over the parliament in Bangladesh, vandalizing the place after Sheikh Hasina's exit. This is the Bangladesh Parliament. If the people were protesting for liberation, for the fact that they wanted Sheikh Hasina, who they termed as a dictator, to go, is this how you would treat your own parliament? Top intelligence sources telling CNN News18 that her exit is a blow to democracy in Bangladesh, and that parties closer to Pak ISI could be coming together to rule Bangladesh, which is a major concern. Safety of Hindus, the minority in Bangladesh, is a huge concern too. Sushant Sareen joining us, and then we should have Major Shamsher M. Chaudhary or Bir Bikram, the former Foreign Secretary of Bangladesh, to be joining us, and Lieutenant General K.J. Singh should also be joining us. Sushant Sareen, you had predicted this not so long ago, and it has come to pass. What should we as a country be doing now?
I don't think we have too many options, Anand, right now at this point in time. I hate my predictions when they come true. I only hope that they turn out wrong. But unfortunately, look, that was the writing on the wall. So the thing is that now, there are very limited options because even Bangladeshis don't know what the hell's happening in that country. The military has set up some kind of, or is trying to set up some kind of an interim government. It'll underwrite that government. But will the military be able to impose or bring back, semblance of law and order back? And how soon will that happen? Will this interim government be acceptable to the agitators, not just the political parties that bandwagon on this agitation, but also some of these quote unquote student activists who were spearheading this agitation? What is the say they are going to have? And if they don't accept it and they continue with what is happening on the streets right now, then how do you re-establish control? Then there is the issue of the pogroms against Hindus. What if that leads to a large-scale exodus of Hindus once again? Something which you cannot completely rule out because Bangladesh has become a bit of a hellhole for minorities. And not only for the Hindus, but also for people who were aligned with the Awami League. There are problems out there as well because there are reports coming in that many of the people associated with the Awami League government, their homes are being targeted, they are being assaulted, all kinds of things are happening. It's complete anarchy and chaos on the streets. So the question then is first thing is to re-establish law and order. Then you will have to see what are the next steps that are going to be taken. Is this interim government going to be for 3 months, going into fresh elections? And then what do those elections throw up? What is the new government which comes in? Does the army take over directly? Looks unlikely because, the acceptability of the army rule, I think will be questionable. Will an interim government persist for more than a couple of months? Again, big question mark. So I think everything is in a bit of a flux. So in a situation like this, I think India's options are very limited. Perhaps what we can at best do is at this point in time, ensure that there is minimum spillover of whatever is happening in Bangladesh into India, but ensure that if there are Hindus who are making a beeline to India to escape religious persecution and pogroms by the majority Muslim community, then certainly we have to give them refuge. And I think the government in India would be remiss if it was not to do that. They passed the CAA, then sat on it for 4 years, did not follow it through. Even that was a very limited kind of a relief that was offered to persecuted minorities. I think we'll have to think this thing through. The time for some kind of complacency on this particular issue is gone. Secondly, I think, Anand, we have to understand a couple of things. There'll be a lot of carping sounds that India's foreign policy in the region has failed. All that nonsense will be said. What were the choices in Bangladesh? At the time Sheikh Hasina came into power, what were the other alternatives? There was the BNP, which used to promise, this guy Tariq Rahman, BNP leader's son, used to tell the Indian interlocutors that, no, we will ensure there is no terrorism against India. We will not give refuge to separatist groups. But, he would say that on our face and behind, our backs, he would carry on with business as usual.
Right.
Because they were with the Jamaat-e-Islami, which is the mothership of terrorism in this region. So we could not go along with those guys. What was our option? We had to stick to Sheikh Hasina. She was our best bet. And to be fair to her, she did deliver on the India's security concerns, and in return there was a very good trade treaty that was signed with Bangladesh. The relations between India and Bangladesh improved tremendously. There was massive infrastructure and connectivity projects that were underway. So a lot of good things happened under Sheikh Hasina between India and Bangladesh. Now that she's not going to be there, we'll have to see that whoever comes back into power, will they continue with that policy, or will they revert to that old policy of treating India as an enemy country? So I think there are serious questions that are arising right now. We don't have answers to any of them because, frankly, it's a situation in a flux, and nobody really knows what the hell is going to happen tomorrow.
Now, Taslima Nasreen has tweeted that Sheikh Hasina, in order to please Islamists, threw me out of my country in 1999 after I entered Bangladesh to see my mother on her deathbed and never allowed me to enter the country again. The same Islamists have been in the student movement who forced Hasina to leave the country today. The presence of Islamists as part of this entire movement and them actually co-opting it and using it to their advantage and eventually corrupting it altogether. General KJ Singh, do you believe this to be true? This could have some merit, that this was no longer just a student protest and they had elements like the Ansarullah Bangla, Jamaatul Mujahideen Bangladesh, Jamaat-e-Islami Bangladesh, all of them being involved in?
Anand, firstly, Jai Hind. While I agree that there are lumpen elements which have taken over this uncontrolled kind of mayhem which has been unleashed in Bangladesh, but that is Bangladesh's problem which has ramifications on us, and we just cannot become irrelevant in Bangladesh. Bangladesh is too critical for us. Bangladesh is gateway to Northeast. It has got demographic challenges. There are issues of insurgents finding sanctuary over there. So, Anand, I would tend to feel that instead of trying to now feel who has done this, how it has happened, we'll have to be nimble, we'll have to remain relevant, we'll have to find traction, we'll have to forge links with military over there, because military is going to be a dominant player. Sure, our diplomacy is quite smart. They have to find ways. Even if we have to use a not so radical kind of Islamist, we must find one. Because Bangladesh we can easily, unlike some other countries where we can have temporary reverses, in Bangladesh's case, it is very sensitive for us. So I would tend to believe there are always people who can reach out. It is time to pull out those cards and play them and remain relevant in this flux kind of a situation. Firstly, very strongly put out the fact that we are with the public, we respect their sentiments, and whichever way they form the government, we will stand by with it. And not to be seen too much. Sheikh Hasina has been excellent. At one stage, I wrote India should give her Bharat Ratna. But now the scene has changed. Our strategic interests demand that while we give her safety, we are not seen to be playing along with her. There has to be, this narrative has to be somehow built up.
We have to.
It's very sensitive. Like what Sushant is also saying, we have to remain relevant there.
True, we will always be relevant, but how strategically, diplomatically, how do we ensure that we underline our relevance is perhaps more important, and how do we manage this tightrope? On the one hand, we don't know whether Sheikh Hasina has gone for good or will she come back to Bangladesh again. She's a fighter and she's done that in the past and she's always returned. The other aspect is that we need to ensure that we protect our interests as a nation, because geopolitically Bangladesh is critical as a nation state that we help liberate, and also beyond that strategically too. Major General, Major Shamsher M. Chaudhary, Bir Bikramji is with us now. Namaste. Thank you very much for your time, sir. How would you read the situation? Was it something that was simmering for a while and it's finally come to a boil, or has this taken a lot of people by surprise? The turn of events in a few hours today.
Thank you so very much for inviting me. I tend to agree completely with General Singh that India matters. In the case of Bangladesh, India cannot afford to take a serious negative view, and the names you are mentioning, Ansarul Islam and all that, this is rubbish. I mean, has no place in Bangladesh. Jamaat never got more than 3% votes in Bangladesh. Number one. Number two, the protest this time was led by the students, first of all. Yes, Jamaat and Islamists might have infiltrated. They have infiltrated. But if you look at the major players in the forefront, they're all progressive-minded people who don't like fundamental politics at all. Bangladesh is inherently a non-communal society. Now, will Sheikh Hasina return? I do not know. I don't know where she's going right now. One news from your Indian sources has told me she's going to London. The other source told me she's going to Belarus. From Delhi, I do not know where she's going. The fact is, Sheikh Hasina can only blame herself for what this has been brought into us. You know, this time, the student movement, as you said, whether it has happened overnight or not, it's certainly not happened overnight. Series of, rigged elections, giving total denial space to any dissent. Forget about opposition political party, total dissent. Yes, India found comfort dealing with Sheikh Hasina government, and for the right reason perhaps, because she ensured security issues of India. She was very close to India. Both governments, whether the Congress or BJP government, had found comfort in dealing with her. But for India's point of view, the relationship has always to be with the people of Bangladesh, not just with a political party, not put all your eggs in one basket. So what happened is the student protest, when it was coming up, it was purely a student protest. No outsiders were there. The quota reform issue. She was very dismissive about it. Very dismissive. The Secretary General of the Awami League said, oh, my student league is good enough to beat these guys out of hell. So you are antagonizing millions of youth who never had a chance to vote because we have been going through for fraud and flawed elections in Bangladesh over the last. We could not even emulate your election system. I mean, your voters at the end of the day have a trust in the election process. Our voters lost trust in elections. We don't have 7 to 8% turnout in elections anymore. Whereas at one time we used to have 70%, 60% turnout. So India should reach out to the people. I have been a true and trusted friend of India for a long. I'm a freedom fighter. I was wounded in the war. I'm alive today because of Indian intervention in 1971, for which I'm very deeply grateful. And I'm in touch with Indian retired military people, retired ambassadors, diplomats, all the time. I was in Delhi only recently and I met all of them. I'm a regular speaker at CLAWS, the Center for. So it is people like us that I just, before coming to I got a couple of minutes, I was talking to the Indian High Commissioner before I came to the thing. Just reassure him that, I'm there, I'm always with you. I know the BNP will not like me because I left the BNP, and I left the BNP because of their dependence on Jamaat. So Jamaat will obviously not want me around. BNP will not want me around. So be it. Big deal. I'm 76 years old. I can do without politics. But for India, it is important to engage, as General Singh was saying, KG Singh was saying, that engage the forces that will engage with the military. Come what may, for the time being, the military will be a factor in the government for some time. I don't think they will want to stay too long. If you stay too long, you then start to overstay your welcome.
Yes.
Right now, they are being seen as, a relief kind of a thing. They brought us relief. They got rid of Sheikh Hasina, she's blown off, etc., etc., etc. At the same time, one must remember that Awami League is an old party.
Right.
It's a party that has grasped, but then it has spoiled itself seriously because of corruption, because of cronyism, because of the student league and the youth league, which has ran rampant all over the country over the last 10 years or 15 years. Let us not lose hope. I think it is everything, all good things come to an end, all bad
things also pass. So you believe that
I've
Bharat should right now.
I've also always told my friends in India that you cannot make friends to only half the people. Reach out to everybody. Okay, Jamaat is a bad, but there are other political forces which are, progressive, which relates to the history of Bangladesh. The new generation don't even know Pakistan.
Correct.
They know there's some failed state 1,000 miles away, which is having terrorism and all kinds of extremism and all built into it. Pakistanis don't trust Pakistan anymore. How can Bangladeshis trust Pakistanis? So I think it is very important for India to remain engaged. We have a very good High Commissioner here. The defense cooperation with India is growing. It should continue to grow. The two forces that are licking their lips right now are China and Pakistan. But I think India should step in. I mean, Indian line of credit is a very generous, but its distribution system is so poor. I cannot, even my friends in Delhi say that we are so entangled in our bureaucracy in handing out $8 billion to you that we get criticized for not doing enough financially, economically for Bangladesh. But India has done a lot.
So you are saying, Major Shamsher Chaudhary, that Bharat should continue to engage, look beyond Sheikh Hasina, but look at the possible options and the progressive options, and that there is more to it than meets the eye beyond just the conspiracy theory. There is a huge student movement, and there is a generation that wants to express
our
itself.
Society is a non-fundamental society, non-fundamentalist society.
All right. So does Sushant Sareen, does that also now give us an opportunity, one, to do something that we have desisted so far, that is to try and strengthen our borders and to try and reinforce our positions there, and also to try and make it less porous? That's one aspect. The other aspect is also try and open these channels and to ensure that we continue to hold that strategic advantage as a friend, as an ally in Bangladesh.
And a good neighbor.
And a good neighbor.
Yeah, I think, Anand, we'll have both. It's certainly not my case that now that Sheikh Hasina is no longer the Prime Minister in Bangladesh, we have nothing to do with Bangladesh. That's not how countries operate. We will have to deal with whoever comes to power in Bangladesh, number one. And yes, we will have our own multiple axes along which we will deal with multiple people in Bangladesh. That's the job of diplomats. That's the job of people-to-people relationship. All of that notwithstanding, I think we also have to understand who comes to power. Look, as of now, and again, I don't want to sound like a doomsday, guy, although I think increasingly these days that's what I'm sounding like. But look, here is the problem. If supposing the army, how much is the army actually going to be in charge? Given the kind of scenes that we've witnessed on the streets of Bangladesh, we'll have to wait and see how much the army is able to impose law and order, restore law and order. We've seen in Pakistan the army, which was a lot more powerful in terms of its ability to influence politics and influence the street. We see the army, all at sea in trying to control the situation out there.
We'll have to wait and watch, because one gets the understanding that if it is indeed a student protest, and if it is a youth, and if they are going to listen in, and if they are going to be progressive, will they back off? And within the next 24 hours, do we see normalcy returning and the army asserting itself?
Look, forget about the students. Look, as far as an Indian, and my problem in Bangladesh is increasingly that even if the protests are being spearheaded by the students and other people have infiltrated, the impact of these protests happening in places on the Hindu community, I think is terrible. The kind of visuals that are coming out on social media, and many of these are verifiable, they are scary.
Let's see. Yeah, I agree with you, and I share those concerns, along with the fact that there are many from the Bangladeshi Hindu community who are also part of these protests. So there is that aspect too. Let's see over the next 24 hours whether or not things come to a certain level of normalcy, because that will give us the cue of how things will move forward. I thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Moving on. Now, after top government sources told CNN News 18 that the government is planning to bring the Waqf Act amendment bill in Parliament sometime this week, the opposition is fanning a dangerous narrative ploy by the government. That's what they are pushing. Minority Affairs Minister Kiran Rijiju has told CNN News 18 that there has been continuous demand and representation from poor and common people, largely